Councillor Zimbrogna.
Yeah. I'm speaking in favour of the amendment. I'm pleased that Councillor Creed has worked with councillors on the form of words that is a vet, because
Just some councillors, pretty.
when you go to the people that you expect
I think
might be open to the idea, but I'll continue.
Yeah, do so, Councillor.
Because I see it as a counterpart to what I was fortunate to be able to pass in the chamber last month. I brought something about rating fairness. Clearly there's a very clear perception in the community that we've got to do some work to make sure that, regardless of the quantum of rates that we levy, that we do so in a way that's fair. I think what Councillor Creed, through his form of words, adds to that and begins to task council to engage in a variety of things that frankly should have been before the people, before this decision was made, to give people the best confidence that we've examined every mechanism that we can, not merely the rating structure, but alternative sources of revenue, and to properly engage with people in a way that is above and beyond reproach. I believe that the consultation process that we engaged in had some deficiencies, and I'm drawing from my memory of the SRV in 2017, where not only do we have far more extensive public meetings that were very, very much better attended than the ones that we've had recently, but we had a very well established plan of capital works. I've looked hard to see what the public could have drawn on to get an understanding of whether roads in their area would be advantaged by an accelerated maintenance program as a result of an SRV, and it was almost impossible to find. I found one graphic that was very low res. The street names were very hard to make out. In the end, I wasn't even confident that that was something that had been available to the public or whether it was something that was disclosed to us in a briefing. I think we could have done a better job. Councillor Lyons Bucket thinks that, to delay this, is motivated simply to avoid some kind of political backlash. But, I mean, what Councillor Creed is suggesting here is merely that we engage in some work and make a decision perhaps in 12 months, which will be a year closer to the next council election, where I rather think that people's memories are going to be more focused on the way that councillors have voted on contentious issues like this. For all its faults, the last SRV at least laid out that extensive pattern of capital works, which we felt morally obliged to because they were a pledge on behalf of that chamber. The value of that process was never more clear than when we came within a whisker of reneging on the pledge that we'd made to sell Packer Road. And it's only because we'd promised to do that as part of the previous SRV process that I think collectively in the chamber we realised that we had to keep faith, and that's the only reason why Packer Road is sealed today. I think people are entitled and should expect that if we're going to be asking for a rate rise of this magnitude, is that we do something at least as thorough as that. I also want to articulate what the difficulty is that we face here in the chamber, because although it's abundantly clear as a result of the feedback process that we know that people don't want this SRV, it's also true that in survey after survey, people in the Hawkesbury put roads number 1, 2 and 3 on their list of priorities. It feels a little bit like they want to have their cake and eat it too. Yes, we want more resources devoted to roads, more even than we're doing at the moment, but no, we don't want to pay more for it. And it places, I think, the chamber into an invidious position because as diligent servants of the people, we've got to try and balance all of these competing and stated priorities that people have. We understand the cost of living pressures that people are under. The capacity to pay report was fascinating reading in the sense that it said that, delinquent rates are more prominent in those parts of the LGA that some people think of as rich. But delinquency and rates, the inability to pay and the fact that people have fallen behind on their rates is a real marker of financial distress, together with the fact that people's expenditure in the Hawkesbury, their discretionary income is down, their savings are down precipitously. This is the effect of the cost of living crunch, and we can't ignore that. But at the same time, I would love for us to have more resources to be able to spend on the things that we like, including roads. I know that if an SRV does not go through, we're going to, council staff are going to have some justification for denying every pet project that I want to advance. I want footpaths around Oakville Public School? No. I want Barnes Creek Road or commercial road sealed? The answer will be no. I want to extend more colonial-style street lamps down York Street as far as the station? The answer will be no. I want park signage to be upgraded because some of our park signage is in a properly depressing state. The answer will be no. Why? Because there won't be any money and we had the opportunity to vote that through and we didn't. Look,
if you can finish up.
I'll support the amendment, but I lament the position that it puts us in, and I'm quite sure that the people that tell us not to raise taxes are going to tell me tomorrow that they want more money spent on roads. Thank you.
Councillor Brogna.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm speaking against what's now the motion, but I want to start with a question to staff. When I was raising in my earlier speech the status of a capital works program, I just felt that it would be wise to seek clarification. There was a graphic that we saw in a briefing that had green and purple worms. One represented the roads that were going to be upgraded anyway. The purple ones represented the additional roads, but it was very grainy and very low res. Could I at least get some clarification about whether there was a list of capital works the SRV would fund, including specific roads that are mentioned by name, that went out as part of the publicly disseminated material? Can I get that clarification?
Yep.
Through you, Mr Mayor. There were no specific roads included in the material that went out. The approach we took was to detail programs, and that was a very deliberate response because the nature of the network has been and has shown us over the past 4 years that roads are deteriorating, and roads in particular are deteriorating at a rate where the priority could change every 3 months. Mm-hmm. The principle of what we're trying to do is to apply the very sparse resources that we have where they are most needed. And if there is a commitment to a particular road 4 years out, it would be disingenuous to say that we will apply that funding to that road come hell or high water because it may not be the greatest priority. That is the approach. That would improve with time. That is a function of where we are, and councillors will remember when I first began about the state of the data that we had available to us at that time and how we've worked to improve that data. That will continue. That work will continue. But the reality is that a capital works program, and we do have a 5-year rolling program, we reprioritise that every 12 months to ensure that that funding goes to the roads which need it the most.
So my follow-up question would be, can we at least ensure that to the extent that we did identify specific roads by name, I'm referring to the graphic that was shown to us in the context of the briefing, will that perhaps form part of the final submission to IPART, or is it still the intention of the Executive not to name roads for the reason that the Director stated?
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. No, it's not our intention to circulate that for the exact reasons that Mr Barton's illuminated. I think it would be disingenuous for Council to publish a 5-year rolling program when we know that is subject, as Mr Barton has indicated, to such degree of change, particularly at very, very short notice.
Okay, thank you for the answers to those questions. So I'll direct my remarks in these ways. Firstly, let's be clear. People watching from home might say, well, this is very reasonable. There are 4 options here. Number 1 would presumably be the most expensive because it was the original proposal. Option 4 is the rate peg only, no SRV. Therefore, that's the cheapest, and therefore options 1, 2, 3 and 4 are graduated in terms of most expensive to least expensive. I want the people watching along in the gallery and at home to recognise that 8.66% for 4 years, which is now the motion before us, is the most is effectively the most expensive option. It's like option 1. 11.73 over 3 years is the same as 8.66 over 4 years, cumulatively it amounts to 39.4% rate rise cumulatively. It is phased in over a longer period of time. At the end of that 4-year period, it's the most expensive option that there is. I don't want people to mistake what's in prospect here with being some kind of compromise option. It's a compromise only in the sense that it's being phased in over 1 extra year. But what people will be paying at the end of year 4 is what otherwise people would have been paying at the end of year 3, if I understand this correctly.
Yeah.
Secondly, unlike the SRV that we had in 2017, and this is my main misgiving, when we made extensive public dissemination of a specific capital works program, I felt that had value. I was new to this at the time, and I thought, well, it makes sense to me that if we're going to be asking for a rate hike, we tie that to specific capital improvements. Of course, that's what we do as part of our public communication. If it turns out, as the Director has clarified, that we've done no such thing this time, and I understand the Director's motivations, staff generally, I don't want to direct this at anybody, I do understand the rationale, but I would point to this as perhaps one of the reasons why the level of anxiety or the pointedness of public feedback has been the way that we have seen it of late. Because we haven't put out a list. We're proposing a 4-year SRV and a rolling program of capital improvement and maintenance that goes out beyond this chamber, effectively won't bind a future chamber because we've made no promise except the promise to raise rates. Well, no wonder. And I'll leave my remarks there. Thank you.
Those in favour of Councillor Cottlesh's motion? Yes. We've got Councillor Wheeler, Councillor Lyons Bucket, Councillor Ryan, Councillor McMahon, Councillor Cotlesh, Councillor Reardon and Councillor Sheila. Those against is Councillor Zambrogno, Councillor Jerrig, Councillor Weigel, Councillor Creed. The motion's carried.
So